Hello and welcome to Dungeon Nerd, a podcast dedicated to discussing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
Let's do this. So Josh, we've been talking a lot about magical worlds and our world that is currently very heavily magic based that we are kind of creating right now. Mm-hmm. And for the Lukewarm Open last week, we did, we kind of just talked about magic, how we like to run magic, high settings versus low magic settings, things like that, and how they kind of fit and relate into D&D. And I wanted to continue to do that. My original idea for last week was to kind of talk about make a magical NPC, things like that. But I think I want to go a little bit different. I want to kind of off a little bit more on the magic subject and kind of the basics of magic. And I kind of want to talk about how magic works in a lot of different worlds. Because, and like, what are some of your favorites? Because I don't have a lot of knowledge or background on how other fantasy writers or world builders kind of have magic systems, like how they work, or I've never really sat and thought about it. So, what are some of your favorite ways that magic systems work in like fantasy worlds or even D&D or anything like that?
Okay. Well, my favorite magic system is in Name of the Wind. They have them.
I've heard it's good. Never read it.
Oh, it's very good. It's called Sympathy. So it kind of you can lock two items together, and then if you manipulate one, it manipulates the other. But based on how
can tether them together.
Yeah. So based on how close or different the two items are, it is harder or easier to move. So say you do a branch and a steel beam. Those aren't super alike, but they might be the same shape. So there's just some similarities, some not. But the problem is when you try to lift the stick, it'll feel like you're lifting both the stick and the steel bar.
Interesting. And do they?
And
have,
so
like,
you move them both.
Does he write like about how it works? Like, does he go into like the concepts of it, or is it still very much like it's magic? Ooh.
No, it is. Like, it is. Hey, this is how it works, and then even the main character is making magic items manipulating these properties, which we all have already understood because he tells us what they are. And the main character can literally make magic items, and it's like, I see how that works. Like going through the logic of how sympathy works. Doing these different things to kind of get these other benefits, it makes sense making these magic items.
Interesting.
That's why I like it the most.
I've never sat down in my world, in my current D&D world, or just in my current setting that I do a lot of work in, I've never really sat and thought about how magic works. Like, it's often, I think, like a really common thing to just be like, ooh, it's magic, you don't understand, like it just works because magic, and I'm just wondering, what do you think like makes a magic system interesting? Like, what makes it fun to learn about, or what makes it fun to explore? I used to think
only hard magic systems were fun, but then I watched a video in defense of soft magic systems by Hello Future Me, and I really
explain the difference between hard and soft magic systems.
Hard and soft magic systems. A hard magic system is like the one I just described to you, where there's hard and fast rules, and the readers know those hard and fast rules. So anything that is done with that magic should be able to be understood before it happens by the readers.
Got it.
A soft magic system's like Lord of the Rings. We don't quite know how all of it works. And you kind of just have to you have to understand that, sometimes the magic will do something that you didn't know it could do until it happened.
Does hard versus soft, do they relate in terms of knowledge that the author knows, or knowledge that the people in the world knows, or both?
It mostly relies on what the
even.
Yeah, what soft magic systems are, they never flesh it out. So neither does the writer doesn't fully know every aspect of soft magic, because that's what they're going for.
Right.
Like a hard magic system is also like Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah.
Like it's
think
equivalent exchange. It makes sense. It's you have to have an equal amount of stuff to go in to come out of it.
Right. Yeah. Can a hard magic system be incredibly complex and have a lot to understand and learn about?
A soft magic system can have a lot of things that are known about it. It's just the rules of it have to be purposely vague. Like you could know 30 spells or 1,000 spells that can be cast in a soft magic system, but the idea that the base reason of why you can cast those is hidden makes it a soft magic system.
Got it. Okay, so then you like hard magic systems more than soft magic systems.
I used to. I watched a video by Hello Future Me called In Defense of Soft Magic Systems, and he showed me the brilliance and beauty that is a soft magic system, and so now I like them both. I think they both have their own different uses, and they're both really fun.
What do you think? What do you think some of the benefits of a soft magic system are? Because soft magic is mostly what I use, just because it's. I guess I wouldn't say easier, but it's like seemingly easier to create.
Yes, I would say ease is definitely a benefit of soft magic system. Now, I will say there is definitely things that are hard about a soft magic system, like trying to make something happen and make it not like trying to make something happen, but not making it feel like it's a kind of a Deus Ex Machina where all of a sudden this thing just all of a sudden shows up and saves everything. Does that make sense?
I think it's also important to note too, like a soft magic system doesn't necessarily not have any rules to the magical system.
Oh no, it 100% still has rules. Yeah, I agree with that.
Right. So I think that can be a place that people get really confused on too. Is you can have rules within a soft magic system. It's just that all of magic isn't understood and can do things that people don't understand or have, like it's just magic and that's why that worked, like, or that's why that didn't work.
Life is Strange. So. One of my favorite games, Life is Strange, their magic system is simply people suddenly have powers. And so the main character is one of the ones who gains powers, and you don't know who everybody else is, but as they create more in games, we're finding out the other people who got magic. The magic that the main character in the first game has is they can go back about like 15 seconds in time. And so that's what the game goes through for a long time is we can only go back 15 seconds. So you can kind of just undo decisions. You still have to make a decision ultimately because after 15 seconds, you can't go back and redo it. And then partway through the game, suddenly you realize if you look at a photo, you can go back in time to that photo and stay there for a few seconds or a few minutes. So it slowly grows your power, but it never feels like it's going... like it's completely breaking. It feels like, oh, that's just something we didn't know until now. It never feels unfair.
I think one of my favorite parts about a soft magic system, which I guess though you can do this in a hard magic system too, but I really like the idea of studying the unknown within a soft magic system. You can still do that obviously in a hard magic system, right? But it's really fun to not have it even you not have it fully known, and especially in the case of D&D, and kind of like explore that as a group together. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, part of like the one of the things that they have to deal with in Life is Strange, at least the first game, is the unknown consequences of using this power. And because it's a soft magic system, they don't need to go into real detail on why this is happening and how directly it is caused by the ability. You just know that it is, and you don't have to flesh that out.
Right. What do you think are some fun, like, ways magic comes about in a world. I know, like, there's plenty of like really basic examples of like, oh, the gods created magic and gave it to humans as a gift.
I love the idea of it showing up somehow. Like, one of my favorite ideas that I've always wanted to do is have like some sort of god die on the planet and like release the kind of energy from a god, and that becomes the magic of the world.
What are your thoughts? I know this kind of jogged my memory a little bit of I can't remember what system it was, but where like technology itself was magic, which I thought was a very interesting concept. What do you think about something like that?
I mean, there's a few things where that's kind of the story they went with. I mean, I think it's interesting. It's an interesting idea that instead of having to pick between a tech or magic world, make magic the tech of the world.
Right, which is really interesting. I also, I think the two. I don't know. I'm kind of torn because I think it's super interesting and I like the idea, but I'm kind of like torn between, like if you're able to make a lot of interesting tech with magic, like I don't know. To me, it just like partially defeats the purpose of magic, and not in like a like you make like a cool carriage that floats or an airship or something like that with like a magical crystal. But like in the terms of like, I can throw a grenade that explodes because I put magic juice in it. Like to me, it's just kind of like, I don't know. There's definitely places for it, and I do like the concept. It's just, I don't know. I think I like the more traditional, like, a wizard can shoot a fireball because he knows magic.
Yeah,
and not the we've turned magic into technology that we can all. Although that could be a fun concept too, though. Like people have turned magic into technology so everyone can use magic. Like, instead of somebody being able to cast jump, everyone can jump because we have shoes now that have jump in them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that is kind of fun, I guess. Do you think, relating it to like D&D and tabletop games, do you think players, I mean, obviously it depends a little bit, but do you think people like to learn about the magic system of worlds? Do you personally like to learn about magic systems and worlds?
I think it depends. I think if I have been given a reason to care, I definitely think there are ways magic systems can draw me in, and just the fact that they exist makes me want to learn more. But I think, I mean, I'm not saying there needs to be like some reason for it, but I think, like in terms of like a D&D game, I'm not going to derail a game and say, hey, I know we're all trying to do this other thing, but let's screw that and go over to this library and just learn about how magic works in the world. Like if it came up naturally and we could just ask questions as somebody who knows so much that we felt like we didn't understand anything for a long time, then sure, yeah, I'll ask about it. But if it's like, I got to go way out of the party's way to force us to learn about this, and it doesn't feel like that's where the story's going, I'm not going to.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's kind of, you need like some sort of not incentive, but a reason to learn about the magic system. Because I know a lot of groups don't like to learn about things like history or magic or, how magic works. Like a lot of groups just want to, go... Yeah.
Or not even, I wouldn't even categorize it as whole groups. Sometimes there's like a few members in the group that just really don't want to do that. And so the rest of the group's like, yeah, we don't have to do that. That's not that important to us.
Yeah. And that's totally justifiable. I don't know. The reason I kind of brought up this, subject a little bit, instead of going with like, let's create a fun, wizard professor, which I think we still might do, 'cause that might be fun. But, I don't know. I think in real life too, I really love like history and science and how, things work in the world and how things have, transpired in the past and how we can observe those things. And I think it's something that like a lot of people leave out when it comes to magic in worlds, where like it's just really easy just to go, oh, it's magic, so it works, you know, like. So I don't know, like I just thought and I'm thinking about my own world, and like, yeah, I have like a few things here and there about how magic exists and like the history of how magic came to be, but I don't really have a lot of like how magic works, like what's like the science behind, like if you're casting a fireball, how do you, like, what's the process of gathering that magic? And I think, it was evident in last session, not that it was evident in last session, but like, because Chris's character was doing a lot of stuff with like gathering magic and gathering energy, and so just kind of like made me think of like, how does that process work in, at least in my fantasy world and in others?
Yeah, it seems like as of right now, yours is a soft magic system for sure. Mine, I always like to go. I just love the idea that the Wizards of the Coast actually put in D&D, or maybe it was from before they bought it. But the idea of the weave, and every magic is pulling from this like just array of energy that goes around the world.
Yeah, I like that too. I really like, one of the reasons why I really like that is because I think it's really fun to, and I think in High Rollers, Mark does this a little bit in one of his worlds, but where like the magical weave, like the energy that's around the world is like protecting them from something on the outside, and like the more you use magic and pull away from the weave, like the weaker it becomes, which I know in D&D there's a god who like restores it, but yeah, I just think that's a fun concept. But I don't know, I think I want in my world something different. I think I want something a little bit different in my world when it comes to like how magic works. I think like I have like certain classes and certain like groups, how they have and arrive and get their magic and how power extends, but as a general rule, I don't really know in my world how magic like works. I don't know like how you create a fireball. Like I don't know, combining these components, how does it, and like the magical energy, how does it become a fireball? I've never really thought about that.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think that's it for the Lukewarm Open. And I think we're all good for some good old-fashioned normal stuff. You told me a little bit about the topic today and said it was going to be kind of interesting, and we were talking about somebody who was really weird. I don't remember
terrible
exactly, but
I've learned more things about them, and they're not a good person.
Okay.
They've redeemed themselves, but just because, I mean, I wouldn't even say fully redeemed themselves, but they have made some amends. They are a god in the Forgotten Realms, but they were not originally a god in the Forgotten Realms, and they are called.
These are never good stories.
Finder Wyvenspur. Now, this week I decided to go back to my notes from previous episodes and kind of just see what things we talked about that we never like kind of went into large detail on, and I was like, that'd be fun to go talk about that person, but never actually did. So I was like, okay, let's go back in my notes and find someone that I wanted to talk about. And this person was mentioned in a few different episodes, mostly episode 28. And so I was like, okay, I'll research this person and see what's up. And then I found out they were a god, and I'm like, okay, well, I definitely have to talk about this topic.
Yeah, okay.
Because at first, the story that we told about them was just them as a person defeating a god, and then I found out that they became a god, and I was like, okay, well, now this is the topic.
Now, how did they do that? Yeah, how does that happen?
Finder was a highly accomplished bard and noble in the nation of Cormyr. It was said his music transcended mere music. It was incredible, inspiring works with deep despair and renewed vigor.
Think about let's pause there for just a second. Let's think about, how like impactful, at least for me, music is, like how like incredible, like even just like modern day music is. Now imagine like if magic existed and people could create music that like transcended even what we have in today's music. I mean, that'd be so awesome. That'd be so cool. How would that change the world? I mean,
I'm going to be honest. I don't think music would be that different.
You don't?
No, I think what would happen is that they would use these the kind of magics and stuff to modify music, and then they would pretty much just make what we do with synthesizers and such.
Yeah, I guess, but like,
because I'm thinking of people with brains that work similarly to ours.
Yeah, but like, you could use magic to bring people into like an entirely different world with your music. You know, like you could be casting. You could
bring back the dead and perform on stage with holograms. Oh wait.
Yeah, but
we do that already.
Yeah, but like, there's nothing that like in a magical system you could like literally make people experience every aspect of one. And this is me coming from somebody who like really loves the audiophile experience of music, because I do love me some like really good headphones and speakers and things like that. But like, yes, the experience you can have today with music is incredible, and you know, we can even, you know, we like even recently we can start even streaming music in high definition and things like that, whereas before it was very limited to like hard and physical copies of records and things like that. But even then, there's still so many imperfect ththings that...
I'm going to say something. I think you would be good friends with Finder Wyvenspur.
Okay.
Because that is what he wanted. He wanted to have magic. He wanted to have magic and music. And he wanted to have his music last so long that even after he dies, it is still preserved, because when he was alive he created music that was so incredible, all these other bards were using it, like, because they loved his music, so they're like, we're going to use it as well. But each of them kind of would take it and edit it so that it was like not just exactly what Finder did. They wanted to make it their own, kind of add a little remix or a cover to it. And Finder heard these, and he was pissed. He's like, these all suck. I have such a level of perfection that I care about for my products, and you take it and you add this trash to it? I hate all of you. You suck. So what he does is he wants to find a way to preserve and keep his music pure, exactly as he imagined it. So he took a powerful artifact and manipulated it, creating the Finder's Stone. He had made it so that he could use it as a tool to record and play back his music. In the end, it worked, but he was not happy with it, since it didn't have any of the flair to the audio that he thought it felt. This audio sounded flat and unalive to him. He needed something new, something to preserve his music. So he did the most rational decision and created a magical clone of himself.
Of course. Why, you know.
He filled this clone with his memories and his music, and he named this clone Finder Wyvenspur.
Flattery?
Yep. But even still, flattery wasn't satisfying to him. He hated the childlike and inexperienced imperfection, since the clone had only been alive for a little bit. Despite having the memories, they weren't on the same level as Finder.
This is going to end very poorly.
Now, I don't know if you've seen the movie Whiplash.
No, I have not.
That is the drumming movie where I believe it's Michael. Yeah, it's Michael Keaton. I'm almost 100% sure. No, sorry, it's not Michael Keaton. It's oh gosh, he's in the Spider-Man movies. He plays Jameson. Oh, what's his name?
Boy, my actor knowledge is very minimal. So
this is gonna kill me. I'm gonna have to look it up. Whiplash. This is J.K. Simmons.
I don't even know who that looks. I don't even know.
I will post a picture in the Discord, but I'm sure you know who he is.
But
so J.K. Simmons, and he plays this kind of rough and crude instructor at a well-known musical college. And so this guy comes in and he's like, okay, I would like to be on your jazz drumming. And he's like, yeah, sure, go for it, try. And the dude is close, but he's not perfect. And J.K. Simmons' character just yells at him and screams at him and just like you're dragging. Oh, you're going too fast, or you're going too slow, and just like and that's like the whole movie, and it's really good. It's a really good movie. I think it won quite a few awards.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I definitely know who this actor is, though.
But so this is exactly what happened to Flattery. Finder was yelling and just like, get it right. You're going too slow. You're going too fast. Yeah. And after only a week, Finder lashed out in anger and struck the clone.
Jeez. Oh, no.
After this, he continually abused his clone, pushing and pushing until Flattery couldn't take it anymore and tried to kill Finder using a ring of disintegration.
What the heck?
Finder's apprentice died instead, jumping in front of the way of the beam to protect Finder.
Uh-oh.
Despite Finder trying to cover this up, what he did, and the deaths, and the escape of Flattery was too much, and his reputation took a massive hit at this. Finder was brought to the trial for this by the Harpers, and the well-known wizard Elminster was also there to bring judgment. The Harpers were already getting scared by Finder's obsession, and this was just the proof that they needed to do something about it. The death and all that was discovered was taken very seriously, and he was sentenced to imprisonment on the border between the positive energy plane and the plane of gems, in a place called the Citadel of White Exile. In doing this, they also worked to do the opposite of what Finder wanted, and they wiped his name and songs from the realms. Only a select few from the council remembered so that they can realize if Finder's works ever came back. Now, Finder would have remained there for seemingly forever, but a sorceress, Kasana, found details of Finder's experiment and tracked him down to the Citadel. She offered him a second chance and a return to the Forgotten Realms, but not for him, but for her own nefarious goals. And together they created another magical homunculus, this time called Alias, who we have talked about previously. She was mentioned in the episode 28. Alias was created for Kasana, but still filled with Finder's music. After she was released from Kasana's rule, she met Finder, who learned she was doing everything he hated previously, taking his music and changing it slightly.
Uh-oh.
But in the end, he didn't hate her changes, and he learned to live with them. Within the next year, Flattery reemerged to try and steal the Wyvernspur, a powerful artifact of the Wyvernspur family. Flattery died while trying to steal this by Georgi Wyvenspur, using the artifact against him.
That could be a really fun D&D character, where you're like a clone of someone, and like you're trying to escape from them killing you because you're their clone or something like that. That could be an interesting D&D character.
Yeah. Returned to the world, Finder was under trial again, watching for whether he would be returned or if he had learned his lesson. In the end, Finder had to decide to destroy the Finder Stone he made and use it to destroy Mowander, the evil deity. He dismantled the stone and using the para-elemental ice at its core. And in the end, he was able to slay Mowander with this. And not just Mowander's avatar, but his real body upon the abyss. When he did this, he also stole its godly essence and took it upon himself, thus granting him godhood. Now, Mowander had been oppressing the Sariel race, who episode 28 was actually on the Sariel race. With the defeat of Mowander, the Sariels were free and saw what Finder had done as incredible and began to worship him. In saving the world, the Harpers forgave him as well and returned his songs to the world. At the beckoning and request of his first priestess, Copperbloom, he began to grow his followers, manifesting himself to bards across the world and sharing his vision with them, growing his domain and power. He continued on like this, growing into what he is now called the Nameless Bard. And that is the story of Finder Wyvenspur, or at least as much as we need to talk about it.
The Nameless Bard is I like that name a lot. I think that's a really cool name.
It is.
Interesting. And so what do you want to create today? What do you want to what are we doing?
Well, last time we created gods of the desert, so now we got to create gods of another area.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And if we want it to be an ascension story, that totally would be interesting as well.
Okay. So where do we want to go now? So we got gods of the desert. We still have, all those other different places. We have the woodlands,
a jungle,
things like that. So
we got the Goliaths, we got the Tabaxi, we got the Leonin Panthers.
Okay, we want to go there. Want to dive into there and do some god creating action.
The Gif are there as well. I think that would be fun.
Yes, they are. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's do it. Any thoughts right off the bat that you're thinking of? Anything that you're...
No.
Okay, so I think, again, because it's like a reverse way of how the gods are created, I think it's important that we think about, if you're in the desert trying to survive and trying to live, and you see, like, what things would you see and correlate as a god? What would turn into a god in your mind if you lived within the jungle? The jungle itself?
What if it's like the things you lack? So like so it would be like the sun, because the sun is mostly blotted out in the jungle. And so it's harder to grow things on the jungle floor unless you like carve up a bunch of trees to kind of create a area of sunlight.
I like that. What if instead of the sun we did like a god of the sky? Like they just like the sky is like something different than just the sun, because that's like a really cool. We already have one anyways too.
What if there's both and they fight and kill each other?
Like a god of the sky and a god of the sun, or a god of...
And they kill each other to take over.
Or what if it was like the god of the sky and like a god of the clouds, or like a god of the canopy, and they killed each other?
Well, I don't see why a god of the canopy and a god of the sky would fight each other, but...
I think it would, to me it would be like... or maybe the canopy... okay, there's so many different things you could do, though, but the canopy could be like an evil god and blocks the god of the sun or the god of the sky from giving them life at the bottom of the jungle. So that could be a very interesting take or concept. So you could do something like that.
Oh, the god of the canopy is preventing the god of the sun from reaching all of the people.
Yeah. Right. So you could do that, which I think could be really cool.
Oh, good. Dude, could we have a god of the sun that also is a god of war, and it wars against anything that blocks the sun? So it hates the god of the canopy, it hates the god of the forest, it hates gods of anything that blocks the sun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think he's at war with how do you think this would come about? Like, how did this belief start? Are they like people when they're first within the jungle?
I think it's a mixture. I think the people in the jungle begin to worship this god as the god of the sun, and they're worshiping it as like, oh, thank goodness, like they think of it in good ways. But then like maybe the people of the desert worship the sun god as well, and the sun god reached out to them saying like, hey, don't create another one, I'm the god of the sun. And in doing so, he didn't realize that the people of the desert worshipped it as an adversary, as an enemy. So these two conflicting beliefs about the sun is a good thing and the sun is an adversary kind of created the god of sun and war.
This could be interesting. Do you think... I know we talked about having kind of like a small limited pantheon with like, main gods within like branches of tons of sub gods within like the family of, like the jungle family, the desert family, there's a god of, big god of all of those, and then they kind of like break down into little family groups. Do you think that each society within these groups, they create their own gods, or do they influence what the other god that like already is? Like, for example, the sun god in the desert. Like if the jungle believes in this sun god and the desert people believe in this sun god, are they two different beings that are birthed, or are they one and they begin to like mold and combine? So like because people start believing in the sun god, it starts changing how the sun god is like manifested.
I think how the different people treat or believe the god is, they are actually changed by that.
Because there's a part of me that likes both. I like the idea of gods like shift and change over time because of the different beliefs that occur throughout the world. And so you have like,
I think where we're at
the
currently,
sun
they
god.
try to stabilize it, but I think, yes, they still can change.
Well, what I think would be really fun is a few different things. I think it'd be fun to have these gods be separate. So like the jungle gods are separate from the desert gods. And the reason I'm partially leaning this way is because we have that world that the messenger god is trying to bring to, of gods that's trying to bring here. And I think it would be interesting if all these gods were created like separate different locations, from belief and from people's imaginations and ideas. And there was some sort of horrific story where like the sun god murdered all the rest of the sun gods, and now he's the only sun god that remains, right? And then he changes and kind of like transforms into what everybody's kind of belief of the sun god is. Does that make sense? Or somehow he exiles, like maybe he imprisons them in this like, plane of where the god, like of old gods that were imagined or brought. And so I think what we can do is we kind of alter the message, like what the messenger god is doing. And instead of having it be like these gods were created from like a story or from a book, these gods that he's trying to bring back are the exiled gods, or the ones who lost the race in like the overall godhood race. And if he brings them back...
Sorry, who's trying to bring them back?
Because you know how our story is, like the messenger god is rebelling because he, is, looked upon as like poorly within the society. And he gave the secrets to the world about how gods were formed and created. Yeah. In attempts to bring back a group of gods that are like imaginary, that were created in a different universe, that were like thought up of by somebody within like a story or something. And if he thought that if he brought those, then he could have a higher standing within godhood society, right? And he could even potentially possibly rule over those, or
because there would be more gods of more of same domains, so they would pull the power away.
Right. So my thought is, what if we altered it a little bit, and the gods he's trying to bring back are the gods created by these early groups that were exiled from the godhood race, so to speak, in quotations. So the sun god of the desert, say, beats the sun god of the jungle and beats the sun god of the... and it doesn't have to be war, but in many different ways it could occur. And they get exiled into like they're not vanished because they're gods, but they're just like, they're gone from the world. They don't exist. They exist, but they don't exist in the minds of the people.
What if the sun is their prison, and the light that comes off it is the radiant energy of all of these unfulfilled gods?
Well, and I think it could be fun because the messenger god, maybe he was like in the olden times in better standing with some of these other gods, right? So like maybe he was thought of as more powerful within a different society who created a different set of gods. And so he wants to release those gods who had previously been exiled or trapped within, the sun or whatever. And if he does that, then maybe he retains his old standing with some of these gods, and they can exile the current group that exists, which I think could be really fun. And so I think I like the idea of what we're doing right now is we're creating, society by society, like domain by domain of, what the jungle gods look like, what the desert god looks like, what the plains gods look like, what the mountain gods look like. And these gods are all separate pantheons and separate entities that kind of clash, right? And well, I'm the god of the sun. Well, no, I'm the god of the sun. Like, what do you, like, well, that's my domain. Well, that's my domain. And they end up like clashing, whether that's war, whether that's trickery, whether that's, deals with other gods to, trap and it's exile different gods and things like that. And it becomes this whole like, giant mess of a pantheon until the gods kind of fulfill the singular domain and start molding into the definition of everybody, like everybody's definition of what that god would be.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving only a select, 10 or 15 that we were planning on having, with a group of counter ones that are like exiled, and if they're released, they can possibly try and regain or fight back and steal back their position.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
I mean, I think it's interesting. I think I would boil it down to back to basics a little bit. So I would just say, I would have it be the gods are like the other ones were all kicked out. We're all defeated for their domain by someone else, by the one who currently resides in that position. I would say they're all in the sun and have them all be over there. And the messenger god, if they free them, one, they'll be more powerful than the gods they just freed. But also, the gods they just freed will see them as, one, a kind of savior.
And they gain that power or something.
Well, just as a savior, and instead of being looked down on like he currently is by the current pantheon, he will not be looked down upon, as he'll be seen as somebody who just like brought these people up.
Yeah, I think that's super fun, and I think that's a really interesting idea for why our kind of quote villain, does what he does, and it could be an interesting, dilemma for a group to deal with. So cool. Well, I like that. So then, continuing on the jungle group, now that I just went on that giant long tirade, I think the sun god is definitely. I don't know if I want it to be the sun or like the sky, because maybe it even like refers to rain too. Like it's all kind of this encompassing, like the things that happen above the canopy. Like it's like a amorphous. Because rain, the canopy blocks the rain, the canopy blocks the sun. Well, maybe they are separate gods. There's a god of the sun, god of the rain, god of the wind, and the canopy god blocks all these things from happening and occurring within the land. Now, there's an argument, though, to be made that the canopy would be a good god then and blocks the bad stuff from happening. But I think it would probably be the opposite.
What would be the opposite? Sorry, can you say that again?
Well, I think there's an argument to be made that if we had like a god of the canopy who blocks the sky, who blocks things like the rain, would he be considered a bad god or a good god? Because sometimes those things can be bad, or would it be like a neutral thing? Because like sometimes the sun kills people.
I don't think he's seen as bad by the people
storms and rain
in the jungle.
People.
I think he's seen as an adversary to like the sun and rain gods, but to the people, he's just a god.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Cool. And what does the god of the canopy do? Does he just like? Is he just the life that exists within the canopy? Like he just is.
I think it's everything
and all the life.
I think he keeps canopy alive. He protects and nurtures the animals that live in the canopy.
Do you think there's a society that lives in the canopy like we have in the forest, and they believe like he protects them?
I think some of the people on the ground think that he protects them because he does. He's an adversary
to all those other gods.
I don't think he's an adversary to all of the gods, but I think in the same way that he
talked about.
Yeah, I think in the same way that he protects, like he blocks sunlight and rain, I think the people who are negatively affected by those things see him as a good protector. So I think the people who prefer the kind of cover of the canopy will see him as 1,000,000% their protector and their friend.
Okay, so we have like a god of the sun, a god of like the rain, a god of the canopy, right? And these kind of are adversaries.
Do we have a god of the rain?
I'd imagine. I want a god of the rain. I think that'd be great.
I definitely think we should, but I don't think we've made one yet.
Well, I'm making one now. I definitely think there'd be a god of the rain because I think a lot of people would see it as something that provides life, something that provides danger, something that provides that feeds the rivers, that feeds the swamplands. So I think it would definitely exist for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think these three gods are they warring or are they? Is it just like do
I think
people
there's
of the jungle
tensions, but I
see
don't
them
think
as-
they're like actively at war.
Okay, yeah. They're just seen as adversaries of each other because they block each other out in many different areas. Like the sun overcomes the rain eventually. The rain overcomes the sun. The canopy blocks the rain and the sun. But then if the canopy is cleared, the sun gets through and the rain gets through. And so like they just exist within this sphere, and their ideas kind of like conflict against
within
each other.
this ecosystem.
Yes. Yeah, that's a better word. Okay. Then what else do we see? So like now let's take it below the canopy. What stuff are we seeing below the canopy that people start believing in?
I think there would be a god of animals.
Do you think it would be combined with like a god of the wilds? Like a god of wilderness?
Well, I don't think the people that live in the swamps think of the wilds at all. I think this is purely the god of the animals that exist in the rainforest.
Okay, so like we have god of these animals, then would we have because we have a god of the canopy, is that including vegetation, or are we like doing a god of the forest floor as well?
Well, I think there could be a god of flora and fauna, for sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think so as well. And do you think these are peaceful entities? Are they, what do you see them as? Like if you existed within the rainforest as like, and you thought of these gods, of a god of, fauna, I'm assuming it would be kind of chaotic, right? Because wildlife in the world is very chaotic. Like there's tons of death, there's tons of life, there's so much that goes on within the sphere of fauna that I think it would kind of be this like probably even adopt these concepts of life and death and suffering and pleasure even maybe. I don't know. Thoughts?
Well, I don't know if I see them as seen. I don't think they're seen as an adversary. I think there's. I think it's hard to describe because I think so many people would have a different opinion of what they think. So I think it's hard to say this is an adversary because some people would see them as an adversary. Others would see them as like something that is so important to life that it would be an ally, if anything.
Well, I think that's why I'm leaning towards like a more chaotic nature, not an adversary, because like so many people have so many different opinions on, what's going on within nature and, fauna in particular. Like some believe that, these animals provide us with so many different things like food and meat and, clothing and stuff like that. And others see it as, these animals kill people. Like, we've been hunted by some of these creatures. We've, I think it would be a very chaotic being. I think
I can go with that. I see that.
Yeah. So I think because it's such a like polarizing figure within the jungle, you even have things like pain and suffering in there. You have, like the miracle of life too within that sphere. So I think like it's a pretty chaotic thing. And so I think though, it'd be interesting then if we did like the god of flora, right? If we had like the god of flora be more of like a stable entity, because like it's just the ever progressing growth of the jungle, right? Growth of the, you know, the life of, plants just constantly ever expanding and ever growing. And I think that could be interesting. And then I think with that, there'd be an adversary to those two, and that would be like disease, right? That would be like plagues and sickness, because it kills,
famine.
Fauna. It kills flora, right? It's rot, it's disease, it's, maybe it's even associated with like insects too. Maybe those are even like separated, but it's seen as the adversary to. It definitely has chaotic.
Arachni in its domain, but I think insects, like you said, are another domain.
yeah. But I think like it's very much seen as the adversary to the chaotic nature of the fauna god, the god of fauna, and then the ever growth of, flora, because it's constantly eating away at these different, the life forces of the jungle. And as we all know, jungle is very, very prone to those type of diseases and, infections and things like that. So
yes.
And I think I like the idea of a god of like insects. Thoughts?
I would say a god of pestilence and plagues.
Pests? Yes. Yeah, pests. I think that's a really good one. I mean, obviously, it would probably be a pretty adversarial god in most people's minds, I'd imagine. Can't
Freddy?
Really
No, Freddy's not a... No, Freddy Pestilence?
Can't really see it any other
Freddy
way.
Pestilence isn't an adversary. He's a good old friend.
Unless some people thought of it as like their ally in certain cases. But even
penicillin.
Then, I think it would be a... Yeah. Do you think these four gods that we
I think that's
created,
it. I think to start out, he's seen as only an adversary. But in more recent times, people have found that you can use mushrooms and fungi and things for like medicines. And people are like, wait, is he not a bad guy? And like that is actually turning the god, as you said. They can kind of change based on how people perceive them. So in recent years, he's becoming a good god.
Because that could be interesting. And I think it would be really fun if he was, at least in kind of this beginning times, like maybe he was close allies with like disease, right? And that's how like fungus began to form, because he was like forming, not necessarily the cure, but like he knew so much about the god of disease and plagues and things like that, he utilizes them in a lot of his own creations or in his own, his own domain, I guess. And people started seeing him as like the cure to these, and maybe those two start hating each other. Like maybe it was once thought of as them as being best friends and, allies, or once thought of them as being, you can't have one without the other type thing.
Yeah.
And then they grow apart in like their relationship because of these different thoughts that people have about them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a question that I want to ask just in general. Do you think there's a god of like humanity, like humanoids, like of people, like just in general? Like, would that be something people think of? Because it is in real life.
But I don't know how early did we start thinking about sentience? I know we thought of the soul, so maybe there's a god of the soul, but I don't know if there's a god of sentience.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's always like gods of wisdom and gods of knowledge, but I don't know if there's ever gods of like humanoids or sentience.
Yeah, I guess it's probably just, they take the like.
I mean, it'd be really funny if the Tabaxi had they had cats and they realized there was a difference between them and cats, and they're like, what is this? Is this soul? Is this sentience? And they began to worship that difference.
Oh no. Oh no. I don't know. Like, probably not. I think it would just take forms in like the god of wisdom, the god of intelligence.
Yeah.
The god of knowledge and, all those kind of abstract thoughts. Do you think any of those would form within the desert or jungle? Because we didn't really make any of those, did we?
What do you mean?
Like, we didn't really make a god of intelligence or knowledge within.
No,
either
we
of
did not
these.
make a god of the knowledge or intelligence, but we also haven't touched most of the people in our world yet. We only went desert and then right to here.
Yeah, no, totally.
So there's plenty of time to do that, but I definitely think there would be a god of knowledge. I don't know if it'd be intelligence, but knowledge.
Yeah, and I guess we have to dive into what society we think would, cherish knowledge the most and end up creating that god more so than others,
100%.
Do you see any other kind of gods that reside within the jungle? Like, is there a god of the, water? Is there, because the Gif probably live in, rivers and swampy areas of the rainforest.
Yeah, I definitely thought that would be a possibility. It would be interesting.
It could be interesting to separate, we had a god of, fish and, underwater, aquatic life. We separated the rainforest in different, tiers of, you have underwater, you have, under the canopy, and then you have, above the canopy, and I think that could be interesting. The different societies that live within each individual layer had their own thoughts of what the gods were, but I don't know. I think there would definitely be a god of the river and its life that it brings, and obviously then it would compete with the version that we had in the desert, because that would definitely be one in the desert for certain.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Well, what if we just combine the rain god and the water god as the same? So
I kind of want the rain god to win. If we I think we should have them fight off, and I think the rain god beats the water god.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I like that.
Because then it would be why is there a god of rain but not of water? And there was a god of water, it just got defeated.
Yeah, he was just he was just part of the rain cycle, baby.
Yeah, they bless the rains down there.
Oh, yeah, no, I like that. I think that's fine. I think that's super cool. Any other random gods you can think of?
I definitely think there should be a god of the dirt.
A soil,
Earth, yeah,
god.
soil, dirt, earth, the kind of stuff beneath our feet.
What do you think that position would look like? What do you think they would attribute to, stability, maybe?
Agriculture.
Agriculture. What do you think his, how do you think he would manifest in terms of, personality? Because he's not chaotic, really,
personality.
Right?
I think he's the opposite of
traits.
chaotic. I think he's the most stable.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think he's he's the foundation that holds up the whole jungle,
Yeah, and I don't even know if he's focused on the jungle at all.
I don't either. I don't think he is, to be honest.
Yeah.
Do you think he doesn't like the gods of the sands?
I think they're different.
Think they're different?
I think he sees them as allies, as friends. I think his stability goes into peace at the same time. So he's not going to start a war over something as silly as our domains are similar but different.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he seems like he would be a very peaceful god. But I think they would have him, and this, tell me what you think about this. I think it would be, he's very peaceful, but if you make him angry enough, he can be very violent, which would be something like an earthquake, right?
Yeah.
Where, the earth shakes and trembles and destroys things. So while he's very peaceful and slow to anger, if that anger builds up long enough, there can be,
I think people see him as hungry as well. When there's fissures that kind of swallow things up.
Yeah, that'd be so funny. He's just like a big old sumo wrestler. No, but I definitely see that for sure. I think these different disasters that, are attributed to, the earth would definitely come into play into his personality. But I see him as, again, a god of like stability and peace, but
yeah,
he is, he definitely has the capacity to, become enraged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which could be a really fun, like, barbarian subclass or a monk subclass.
Like some sort of like a paladin of the earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Barbarian subclass.
I don't remember if I was talking to you about this or if I was talking to somebody else, but there was a really interesting idea, that a take on a druid that I thought was super interesting, and it was a druid who, the reason they are a druid is to completely destroy all of nature.
Huh?
I thought it was a very interesting take. Like, they learn and study all about the magic of the of nature, just to destroy it for one reason or another. I don't know what that reason would be, but I think you could definitely figure something out. I think it'd be interesting.
They work at construction.
Yeah.
They gotta learn they gotta learn about the things before they can destroy the things.
But I think it could be really interesting. I think could be really fun. I don't know how exactly you'd, off the top of my head, how I'd want to do that, but I think it could be interesting. And they devote themselves to the study of nature and magic and how they work, so that they can fight back against nature or destroy nature. It could be interesting. Anyways.
Interesting. Well, I think I'm going to call it there. This has been episode 81 of Dungeoneered. Thank you all for listening. And if you would like to write to us, you can write to us at dungeoneered@hotmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to just say like, oh man, well, I loved what you created in that episode, or man, you should do this topic, or you should do this lukewarm open. Like, we'd love to hear it all. If you listen to us on any podcasting apps with ratings and reviews, please write a review. Let us know what you think about the show. We love to read them, and also it helps the show by showing you're engaging in more ways than just one. Anything else, Aaron?
No, I think that's it for me.
Well, as I always say, always remember to be the sharpest barrel in the bunch. See you next time.
Bye.